Well, good morning again, IWU. Good morning, good morning. I have the honor and the privilege to introduce our speakers for today as we continue on with our Friday series of evangelism. With us today, we have Austin Bonds and Brian Doyle from Metro Relief, which is a outreach ministry based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that focuses on breaking down the barriers between the homeless population. Here in Marion, Indiana, we see homelessness firsthand all over Marion and all over Indiana. So we experienced this problem firsthand. Also, on today, as Austin and Brian come today, Austin is the CEO and the founder of Metro Relief, and Brian Doyle is the director of funding of this nonprofit. So funding is important. But on today, we will hear the words from Austin that he speaks on the importance as we've been going through this practice of Christian evangelism and what that looks like, not only in our own community, but in the mission fields beyond Marion, beyond Indiana. So would you help me in giving a big welcome to these two, Austin and Brian.
Thanks, CJ. Good morning. How you doing? Well, I wonder if you'd stand with me just in honor of the scriptures. We're going to read the passage, and then Austin's going to share from that point on. You can follow along. It's going to be on the screen. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" "What is written in the law?" he replied. "How do you read it?" He answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "You have answered correctly," Jesus said. "Do this and you will live." But he wanted to justify himself, and so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" In reply, Jesus said, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, they beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. 'Look after him,' he said, 'and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense that you may have.' Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell in the hands of robbers?" The expert in the law replied, "The one who had mercy on him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise."
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you for having Brian, you guys can sit down. Yeah, sure. It is exciting to be here, man. This is my backyard. You don't know that, but I grew up in Marion. From 1980 to 96, I was the king of this neighborhood. I don't know. Ask the people that used to be here, and they'll tell you. It's true. See, somebody knows. I had the BBC come because he reads way better than I do. So thank you so much, Brian, for reading the scripture. I drive a bus. That's what I usually do. I don't speak to people. But I have the opportunity of sharing with you because this whole story of mine actually is birthed out of this very place. Maybe not this room. It wasn't even here when I was here. I grew up right down the street on 37th Street. And I would walk through this campus almost every day to get to I don't even know what direction it is, but to get to Center School. I don't know why they call it Center School, because it's not in the center of nothing. Like, my neighborhood was like a mile away. I had to walk, maybe it felt like a mile away, walk through Indiana Wesleyan campus to get to school, and then walk back home. We were poor. We didn't have a lot. I actually drove around Marion yesterday, and it seems like a lot of people still don't have a lot. We would not have heat in the winter. We would not have water sometimes. We would run a hose to the next door neighbor's house. Sometimes we didn't have a phone. I had so many different phone numbers growing up. Sometimes we didn't have electricity. We would go to bed when it got dark. We had 2 dogs, and we would separate the whole house into this one room. We put up blankets on the one side and on the other side, and we used the dogs for heat. 1 dog on this side, 1 dog on that side. I would sleep here, my brother would sleep here. We slept together so that we'd stay warm. Our pipes would freeze all the time because there was no heat in the house, so the pipes would just freeze, so then there's no running water. When I turned 12 and 13, it was really hard to hide the fact that I didn't take a shower. This was our playground, and I would run around this neighborhood all the time. One of the first Good Samaritans I ever seen was a guy named Charlie Alcock. There was this old little Macon place over here, and we would ride our bikes through the campus, and I heard music coming from this little place. So we went down there, and there was 4 guys singing on the stage. I think they were his instrument or something. Or Charlie was in this group, and he was singing it, but they had donuts. And he looked at us little kids, and he stopped singing, and he brought us some donuts and gave them to us. But our family didn't like IWU. They were taking away our neighborhood. They took away the streets. They took away all kinds of stuff. On more than one occasion, the campus police brought us home. Like we were doing something here. One of the times we were taking the W out of the IWU because we wanted it to be IU. I was like, well, we don't like IWU, but we like IU. So we took there was a mound with bricks, and we just took the bricks, threw them down the hill. The cop was like, what are you doing? Campus police. I'm like, we're getting rid of the W. That's what we're doing. And whenever he took us home, my dad looked at him and said, do you blame him? I thought that was funny. Like, do you blame him for taking out the W? I was well on my way to stealing and robbing. I stole food because I was hungry. I took as much as I could from the time I knew how to steal. My brother taught me until I came to a youth group, JC Body Shop. And of course, I met who Jesus was, and my life was torn. I was torn between, I knew that there was a God, and back home, like the streets. And I was arrested for the first time in the 6th grade at McCullough School. The detective showed up, called me to class. Austin Bonds, come to the office, please. I get down there. He read me my rights. You have the right to remain silent, arrested me, put my handcuffs on me, led me out. For the first time I was arrested, I was caught stealing. 6th grade. I got arrested 5 more times before I was 18. The last time, or right when I turned 18, I was still a senior in high school. And I was living on my own, trying to make it as a senior in high school. I had a little apartment. I had just turned 18. I lied to him when I was 17 to get the apartment. And I was trying to make it. I was really trying to do it on my own. But I lost my job. My car wouldn't start. I had no family to help me. But I had some thugs, some people that could help me. So we decided to rob this place. In the middle of the night, March 21st, 1996, as I'm supposed to be in school the next day, I was stopped by a cop after I robbed this place. And I lied, but I knew who this cop was. He was famous, actually. He was trigger happy. He had pulled his gun on a few people, and when I told a couple people this story that knew him, was like, you're lucky you didn't get shot. As soon as he stopped me, I started lying. He started to get out of the car. I took off running. I was fast. I had a record at McCullough Middle School, and I was fast. I was gone. I got to this hiding spot, and almost like cops, I was like, excited because I thought I had beat him, like I was to a good spot. And I felt the presence of the Lord I can't explain what else it was. Pulled me from my spot, laid me in the middle of the road, icy, March 21st. And I was arrested physically by the Holy Spirit. Then I was arrested physically by the cops. I had all these people that I had kind of gotten to know at Indiana Wesleyan that showed up, like almost the next day. I was facing 14 years in prison. They read me all these charges. I'm like, how do I get all these charges? They threw the whole book at me. I had deserved them, and as soon as I was arrested the next morning, I woke up like, I know what to do now. I know that I'm supposed to not live like this. And this youth group that I had once known, these people, and this Jesus, he was saving me. He has given me another chance. And from there on, I had Good Samaritans showing up every day. Some people might remember Terry Monday. He's a vice president, used to be here. I was really good friends with his kids, and he started coming every Saturday night to see me at the jail, almost like I was his project. Not just that, missionaries were coming to see me. The chaplain was pouring into me. I graduated high school while incarcerated. The only person I ever know in the state of Indiana to graduate while incarcerated. Not a GED, I got my diploma. And I was writing Indiana Wesleyan, I was writing Grace College, Olivet, I was writing all these colleges and asking, can you accept me into college? I got a couple responses, I think mostly because the return address was Grant County Jail. Like, what are you doing writing us? Terry Monday really wanted me to come to Indiana Wesleyan. I wanted to go somewhere else. I didn't want to be around here. But there was tons of people from the school that were hooking me up. In essence, they were picking me up, putting me on their horse, bandaging me, feeding me, paying for my stuff. They were really like Good Samaritan me. They spoke the gospel without words. And I knew it. I knew what they were doing it for. I knew that it was because of their love for Jesus that they were reaching out to me. Sometimes words get in the way. I mean, I wasn't in no place to hear from people from Indiana Wesleyan to tell me what to do. I mean, all you guys do is take my roads, took our basketball court that I grew up with. If you didn't know, there used to be a basketball court, 38th and Washington Street. It's like pros played there, bro. I mean, I would go there and get scared, but it was the place. I mean, we have to point to Jesus when we help people, of course. My sentence was 5 months long, 5 years probation. I waited that whole time to try to figure out a plea deal. If you don't understand, basically, I was locked up without knowing how much time I would do until I signed that plea agreement, and I signed it the day before I got out. So just waiting the whole time on what God was going to do. Right after I got out, I couldn't get into school quick enough. I had like no time. August 21st, 1996, fall semester started like in just a couple days, really. I couldn't get in. So I worked on campus, and they wanted the place, the Marriott, which was what it used to be before Pioneer, Baldwin, couldn't hire me full time. But they could hire me in 3-hour shifts at a time. So every time the students would come in, I would be there because I would work from 6 to 9 or 7 to 10, and then I would work the lunch, and then I'd work dinner. So I had 60 hours a week, but none of it was continuous because I was a felon. But I was trying to show up, trying to do what I could. The January 4th, before school started the next semester, I worked my tail off that semester to get some money. I went to see my mom. My mom lived at 5th and Boots. You guys know where that's at? You guys heard of Boot Street, right? That's what they say is the hood around. But the hood's grown a little bit in Marion. It's like all of Marion now. I mean, hold on, I'm sorry. It's a circle around it, okay? As soon as I went to see my mom, there was police tape all around her building. If you don't know what a SRO is, it's single room occupancy. Basically, you share a bathroom, but you have your own little bedroom. My mom, at the time I had to go get a new place in high school, she had to too. She got a space that was crappy. It was the worst place in town, like this really bad spot. The building got tore down a couple years ago, but it was right across the street from the Grant County Rescue Mission. catty corner from the Grand Hamburg, that little tiny hamburger spot. And I didn't know why there was police tape. I went up there to the paddy wagon and said, "Hey, what's going on? What's happening?" And they said, "You need to get away from here. This is a police crime scene, blah, blah, blah." My mom's car was in the parking lot. Didn't make sense to me. So I drove around with my friends a little bit longer, and we went to the police station because I'm like, I knew the detective up there on the porch at my mom's house. I bet she's at the police station now. Let's go see what's going on. Of course I knew the detective, right? I knew a lot of those guys. As soon as I got to the police station, all my family's there. And I'm like, what in the heck is my family doing here? I ran up to the door, got up there, looked at my step-uncle or my aunt's boyfriend, and he said, "Joe, I'm sorry." I don't know what a step-uncle is. "I'm sorry, but your mom's been murdered." I fell out and went nuts. Just completely almost. I jumped over the police station desk because I don't know why. I thought maybe somebody back there had the answer or something. So there was this counter, so I just went back. Finally, the Grant County Sheriff came out and almost tackled me, and he put me in his office and he set me down. That night, tons of people from the school showed up. The chaplain, Gary Swires, the youth pastor of JC Body Shop, who was a graduate of Indiana Wesleyan, Darren Campbell, Greg Beecher, who was on staff, who I also was living with, showed up. All these people just to show me love and care. My mom didn't have a penny to her name. She maybe had a couple pennies in the car, but she didn't have any money. She didn't have any insurance. I stood in front of the chapel 3 days after she died in 1997 and said, "Hey, can anybody help pay for the funeral?" With the donations that day from the student body, you guys, and the donations from RPs. Anybody know who RPs is? You shouldn't. It's a bar. It's on 32nd Street. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. RPs and Indiana Wesleyan, a bar in this college, gave the money that was needed for her burial. It's still unsolved. Thomasina Maydale Weiniger died January 4th, 1997, still unsolved, like a few others. But it's not in vain. It's not in vain at all. Actually, through all the Good Samaritan help and the people that I learned from, not just then, I came to school here, people poured love into me. I tried not to tell anybody about the felonies. I think some people found out. So maybe some people found out my mom was murdered too. I tried to hide it all because I found a couple people that really didn't like felonies or felons. So I tried to just hide it. It's not in vain because now I mobilize an army of Good Samaritans. And I'm trying to get more. Because I believe that when you reach out with the love of God and you help your fellow man, it's actually showing the love of God like you could never, like no other thing can do. Sometimes the words don't mean jack until you do something. St. Francis of Assisi is attributed to saying, "I speak the gospel at all times. Sometimes I use words." He might not have said that, but in his journal, it actually said something like that. My hope and my prayer is that you'll watch this video and you'll see kind of what it's all become. It's almost like God has blessed me so much, or he's just totally put his hand on me, sent people to support me, all kinds of stuff. I went to see my brother yesterday here in Marion. He hasn't had afforded the same opportunities that I have. And In this video, you'll see that we are creating an army of Good Samaritans. We'd love for you to join us. I'll come back up after the video and close us out, this long video.
Homelessness. The statistics are quite heartbreaking. About 146 million people have been defined as homeless by the United Nations in 2022. An even greater number, 1.6 billion people, have been designated as displaced or refugees, or live presently in temporal or inadequate housing. Here in the United States, about 500,000 will not be in a home tonight. They'll be sleeping rough under bridges, in cars, across our cities here in the Dallas region. We will find between 7,000 to 9,000 people who are sleeping in very vulnerable places and are in desperate need of hope and healing. Metro Relief exists to give that hope and healing and to provide solutions and pathways for them to find the next step in their journey. It's a very complex issue, homelessness, riddled with mental health issues, substance abuse, those who've come from all kinds of contexts, whether they've come out of incarceration, whether they find themselves as missing persons, whether they are victims of domestic violence or trafficking or immigration challenges. We find them to be the most vulnerable people. Metro Relief is committed to go relentlessly to find those who are experiencing homelessness across our cities. Our case management team and our housing navigators will find themselves in front of around 2,000 of that population across the DFW every year, with a desire to find the next baby step in their process of hope and healing for the future.
We came here with an ambition and a bus and all of our stuff packed in it so that we could really start an outreach to the homeless here. Over the past 12 years, we have found more and more solutions. Each week we take this bus and we take it to the worst parts of the city where homeless people are congregating so that we can do the best we can with feeding them, giving them hygiene products, bringing a group of people that can befriend them, pray for them, smile with them. We bring these things so that we can really build some trust. Over this past year, so many people have stepped up in our community. We feel like as we walk through the streets of Dallas that we have an army with us. We feel like we really do have supporters on our left and supporters on our right, people that are praying for us and that are backing us financially. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't even be able to do this.
I've been with the company since February 1st, and it's been a life-changing experience for me. I had no idea of the plight of the people that are homeless on the street, that are experiencing homelessness, and I didn't care, to be honest with you. But what happened was I went out on a run with the Dirter team, and we went to a bridge, and we saw several tents. We saw a lot of people with drug addiction. We saw a lot of people that were just not being housed. And in the richest country on earth, in America, I couldn't believe my eyes.
What stands out to me that's different about Metro Relief is just our mobility. We don't just take food to them on the relief bus, but what we do is we take logoed cars out and we go to where they are. So we go out in the middle of a field, under a bridge, out in the woods, behind a dumpster, all kinds of different places and things to meet our homeless friends on the street. One of the things we really believe in at Metro Relief is being like the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan didn't have any preconceived notions when he ran into that guy on the street after two religious people walked by him. He gave him food, housing, and clothing and said, if there's any more expense, call me. He just really loved on them. And that's what we like to do at Metro Relief. We want to love on these people, gain their trust, hopefully become friends with them so we can help them, and then see them move forward in life.
Knowing that we're actually helping people, whether it's getting them off the streets, into rehab, into detox, helping them out of the situation that they're in and their lowest of lows, really connecting with them, and really does make me want to get up in the morning and come out here and help people. I don't know how to explain it. It's the most amazing job I've ever had.
The reason that I love doing this and I have a heart for this is because I was homeless at one point. I was homeless on and off for about 10 years. I love just being able to share my story with people that are in the same situation that I found myself in many years ago. And just seeing these people go from, living in an encampment under a bridge, shooting heroin or whatever, and then to see them go to treatment, get their life back on track, get an apartment, get a job, get a car, just to see people grow.
This is not a job for me. This is fun. This is exciting because I get to help people. So I have this friend of mine who lives out on the streets. We go out every Saturday. About a week ago, he lost one of the wheels on his walker, which is also kind of like a wheelchair. He can't move. He's got to be able to have the wheelchair to get around. We actually have a volunteer who also helps every Saturday. She had helped us get a chair for him. So when I was able to actually go out and bring the chair to him.
I came today to get something to eat. But guess what she said? I got a surprise for you on the bus. I didn't think it was a chair. I thought you had something else going. I cried and...
The excitement, the joy in his face. He started crying because of he was so happy. Before Metro Relief, he didn't believe in God. He did not believe that anybody was out there to help him. And he now he believes in us. He believes that no matter what, we are always going to come through, whether it's for food, it's for hygiene, it's for anything that's going to get them help. The simplest things go a long way.
Thank you. The only thing I want to say, that's a long video. The reason why I shared it, the long version, is because you got to see what we really do. We don't just feed, we don't just clothe, we're really trying to help them off the street just like the Good Samaritan did. And that was our example. That was my example. You got to hear my story. Some of those things that I did, I created. Not once did we hear if the person that was beaten and left for half dead had any good reason to be beaten. Never mind. But sometimes people put themselves in these situations and sometimes they're a victim. No, we're not there to judge, we're there to help. That's what Metro Relief does, and we really are trying to mobilize an army. We got one started in Cincinnati, one in Columbus, one in Baltimore, and we really want to help more people get started. You can come help us down in Dallas, or you can start one yourself and we'll help you do it. Thank you guys.